So this is it, isn't it? Welcome to the year in review. I don't know if it's exactly been a year. I haven't bothered to look up when I put up the first video. I know there was that really awkward intro to the one episode where I talk about waking up in Mayville and ordering the Mega SG adapters. And Analog just put up a whole bunch of stuff in their store recently. So if you need a Mega SG or you need a Super NT, or you need any of that shit that's not a pocket, like, it's there now. You can play like fucking HDMI Super NES on something that's better than a Super NES, or swap in Genesis. I need to stop. I'm good at handling quarantines more than most, and I think when everything got shut down, it was as if society was dragged down to my like rat-like sewer level, and it was more about, what can I do to entertain myself? This sounds so selfish, dude. Two people I care very deeply about had a Twitch channel that sort of like made the first couple of weeks of the quarantine thing fun. And I can say that without guilt, because like when everyone else is screaming like a headless chicken on fire, fun is not something you should be denied. I left their names out of this because I don't want them to be like embarrassed or blushy or whatever. But I was like, hey, maybe I can do the Twitch thing too. Turns out I can't do that. I can compose music, but I can't jam. I can't really do Twitch so well, but I can fucking script a video, and then I wound up with a YouTube channel. Like, it was bestowed upon me. This is what I shot a video looking very bloated, as it turned out. What I'm going to do is give you all the errata for the past year, and then I'm going to hand out awards that don't exist. Because fun is more fun than not having fun. Let's make some fucking magic. The first episode of Fangirl 2020X, which is a conceit that it is held together by Kleenex and snot. It is hardly an idea. The concept being that, like, I grew up during the console wars in the 90s, where they take all the children in the world aside and they put a gun to your head and you have to pick Nintendo or Sega, and I picked Nintendo. So now I'm like, well, what if I pick Sega? And what if I gave these things the consideration that someone would give them if you were like 12 years old and this was the only game you have until your birthday or Christmas or whatever? Because when you're a kid, you don't have a day job. School is basically a day job they don't pay you for. Fucking hoax, that shit. Anyway, the first video, I did Virtual Pinball Lemmings 2 and Zillion, right? And I feel like going back now, I gave those games short shrift. A lot of the stuff I gave short shrift. I was just sort of like chopping stuff together to get things done. That sucks. Lemmings 2 wore out its welcome, because even though we now live in a situation where we can take photos of passwords, when that gets dumped into your gallery and you're like, well, I last played this 3 or so weeks ago, so where's the blurry photo of the TV from 3 weeks ago? That sucks. There's a series of passwords for each of the different tribes of lemmings. Whatever. Zillion, it was really awesome, and is still really awesome, and is still like probably a required purchase for the Master System. But I fell into that one death trap room after a long session of playing and got real angry, and then I stopped playing Zillion. Virtual Pinball, I was pretty cruel to, and I realize now that there's some significance to Virtual Pinball. Virtual Pinball was supposed to be part of a 10th anniversary of Electronic Arts. When Electronic Arts started, they did that Can a Computer Make You Cry? We See Farther ad with the Norman Seeff photograph. Norman Seeff did, I forget which Fleetwood Mac photos. I can just pop them up here if I figure out which ones.
I don't want to be a cleaning lady.
So the 10th anniversary of Bill Budge's Pinball Construction Kit was going to be Virtual Pinball, an adaptation for the Genesis. Son of Mule was being worked on. Didn't happen. And that's kind of as far as it got. Oh, Pink Lady Apples. The sponsor thing was going to be constant from episode to episode. I had like this bag of Middle Eastern peanut crisps that was going to be the one episode. I was really into the Coca-Cola Tic Tacs at one point, but I was just giving myself more hurdles to leap over, and I didn't have a process together to make the videos yet. So why make it harder when I'm already having trouble? I think it got really good with like the Alien Heavy episode. I still do not have the Commodore Alien 3. It's not like there's like a British Syndico, you know, whatever. The episode with Penguin Land, I say that whole rolling out the reverse red carpet thing. I say that as if that's like something I came up with. That's a normal move you do in games like this, or Lode Runner, or in anything. I sound like a buffoon. Imagine my surprise when I got the Atari flashback thing for the Switch and realized that dodge 'em was basically head-on. Like, I played that shit on the bus. It's a lot easier than playing Power Racer on a Game Boy Color. A lot of that episode was me zooming into stuff, and I don't really do that anymore. There's the thing in the beginning of Hang On where I say, the title screen music is great. You wouldn't expect a mid-80s motorcycle racer to be some minor key, but it is, and the pensive mood is welcome. Like, you can tell I'm writing a script as like a character, not to be a character, but because I don't know how to write in my own voice at that point. I was kind of reticent on dunking on Jurassic Park so much, but then like a week after I put out this video, Kim Justice put out a video about how Jurassic Park sucks, and I am not crazy. As far as the chop shops go, looking back, Outrun 2019 is the closest to Outrun. There's a lot of other weird Outruns that I've played since, and I will probably do videos on eventually, that are not Outrun. Which is fine. If they're fun, they're fun. But Outrun 2019 looks better the more I think about it. I fucked up the mix real bad on the Fatal Rewind thing. I'm gonna get around to fixing and uploading it eventually, maybe. I gotta figure out where the raw data is on that there hard drive. As far as I know, I didn't get anything wrong on the SC3000 episode, which is a big deal for me. As recently as the trailer thing the other week, Dan O'Bannon didn't really write Dead and Buried. Ronald Shusett did, and we have Joe Bob Briggs to thank for that. I think that's all I fucked up. As far as the year in review goes, what are the best 5 games I covered? And the number 1 game will win the Danny Barry Memorial Ass Kicker Award. Number 5, Gauntlet IV. I wrung this dry. There was one day where I played the living hell out of this. Maybe went through like 75% of the quest mode and did not fucking let up. That is why it is bumped down to 5-ish. If you have a Genesis or anything that can play Genesis games, you should probably have this, because like I said, you will probably never need another Gauntlet game. Good on you. Number 4, I really ran my mouth about R-Type a bunch, but what I didn't tell you is that stage 4 keeps fucking destroying me, and it got to a point where like the stuff after stage 4 is easier. The hidden stage is kind of easier, but 4 with like the little stuff that generates something about that. So that's how that gets knocked down to appropriately spot 4. I really did think this through. It just sounds like I didn't. Number 3, and I do wish it was higher, is Fatal Rewind, which covers a lot of ground in terms of stuff I like. I want to come up with a name for a game that a lot of people think is mediocre, but like 1 in 50 people will fall in love with it. This is absolutely one of those games. Don't be afraid to try it, because if you're that one person out of 50, you're gonna fucking go fully off and love the shit out of it. And I loved the shit out of Fatal Rewind. I will say, don't expect Shanghai on this list, even though I really loved Shanghai, because I got Clubhouse games for the Switch, and it's got like a billion different takes on what they call Mahjong Solitaire, and what buffoons call just Mahjong, because that's not Mahjong. Number 2, which I can't hold up because I don't have a physical copy, is Degeneration. It's a very good pick up and play it when you don't feel like doing anything else game. The more you play it, the more you sort of choreograph what you do. It's very easy to remember certain things after a long time of not playing it, and that feels good. The only thing wrong with this is it's too short. Should I have bought the HD remake? I don't know. I still don't know. Maybe I will, because then Veda Cook gets a cut of that probably. Anyway, number 1, place your bets. Think about what I would pick for number 1. I feel like some people, if you're used to the past year of garbage here, you know what I'm going to pick. I skipped forward in the order I got games just so I could cover this. It's Monaco GP. I'm going to proselytize about this until I'm in the fucking ground. It is more fun than it should be. I will say I still haven't played the arcade one yet, but the arcade one doesn't have the jump. So how does that even out? I don't know. But this right here, let's say you're like really into Game Gear stuff. So you'll get a Mega SG and you'll get the adapters so you can play fucking RoboCop 3 on the TV. Cool. Great. But with that, you'll get the SG 1000 adapters. Just find a copy of Monaco GP. You can probably get it, just the cart for like $20 tops. I think it's on Sega Card too, and you'll have a card catcher if you bought those adapters. It's just too joyful for me not to put in first place. If I got a Monaco GP tattoo, what would it be? Maybe I would just get like the car on like a finger. There are other things out there in the world, and so I'm gonna like tell you about like books and movies I liked over the past year. Maybe for some of you this will be a pleasant surprise that I'm talking about something that's not video games. Jordan Mechner's Prince of Persia journals. This is the reprinted version with like the doodles in the margins and the the doodles in the margins and the storyboard notes. They're in here. Hell of a book. Relatively cheap for a hardbound book that is aesthetically pleasing. I don't know if you can see this here, but they have like a sort of pattern crosshatch thing to simulate sprite pixels as opposed to non-sprite pixels. What am I talking about? It's a beautiful book. There are places where you can tell the muse leaves him and it feels relatable and you're like, okay, this dude like fucking crushed it on this game, but some of the issues he had are super universal, and that feels good to know that that's a thing. The book's by Michael Gingold, whatever. Ad Nauseum 2, Ad Astra. They're compilations of newspaper ads that he used to clip out when he was a kid. Holy Terror, I think that's Alice, Sweet Alice, actually. Like there's 70s and 80s ones in this edition, with like little asides. But it's like they're down to like the freaking theater listings on the bottom. There's a bunch of Gremlins ones right there. Pretty cool books. Yeah. And then there's a quote from Joe Bob on the back. I didn't think I realized that. Burning Chrome. Not enough people wanna talk about Burning Chrome. You know, there's a lot of Gibson out there. There's a lot of Gibson books, and sometimes they can get ponderous. But this one is like, okay, after 20 pages, we'll cut it short. The one about the freaking digital fighter planes or something, that I could do without that. Get a cheap copy on eBay. This is probably like $3 tops. You probably pay the actual original paperback price. Burning Chrome. Xenofeminism books. The Xenofeminist Manifesto by Laboria Cubonics, which I could be mispronouncing. It's just a really great way of coalescing how I believe things should be politically and how I believe things should be in terms of gender. It's fucking brilliant. Not enough people are getting bashed over the head with this book. Metaphorically, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just saying, like, golly, go get it. It's free if you look up the Xenofeminist Manifesto, but it's nice to have like a little printed one you can keep around like a Gideon Bible. And also Helen Hester's Xenofeminism is a good bit of further ruminating on the subject. The Martin Campbell Kelly computer book, Computer. So much of this feels so dramatic. It is so well written for something so dense. I mean, I will say that it's easier to read than like Robert Cringely's Accidental Empires, which people think is kind of a fluff piece, but this is real. This is fast. This is a nice, addictive book about the history of computers, starting from where it should start in like the late 1800s. You'll never look at airline reservations in the same way again. So much of this could be a TV show or a movie. Like, what if *Halt and Catch Fire* came back, but it was set in the 1950s? Movies. I mean, I tried looking back on the last year of stuff on Letterboxd that I was into, And so I'm just going to rattle off a list that I put onto the laptop. Frankenstein's Monster's Monster, Frankenstein. Birth of a Flower. Mary Jane's Not a Virgin Anymore, which is a Sarah Jacobson film that you can get through AGFA. Maybe you can still get it. Hopefully you can. Effects, also through AGFA. Really early Tom Savini movie, shot in like the woods around here. Rose Matafeo, Horn Dog. Aside from that and An Evening with Tim Heidecker, those are the two greatest stand-up specials I've ever watched in my life. Imagine stand-up specials where there's nothing broadly offensive in them. And Lana knows what's offensive. I brush off offensive things. But she loves both of these. I loved both of these. The Tim Heidecker one you'll have trouble breathing. The Rose Matafeo one, I hope I'm saying her name right. The ending is so life-affirming. It's pretty great. So both of those are required viewing. Night is Short, Walk On Girl, one of the few like actual anime films. I hesitate to say anime because the animation style is so different than what most people will consider anime nowadays. Good film, fun, all over the place. To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story. That's probably a niche thing. I can't imagine that everyone is going to love that, but it moved me in a way that I did not expect. So good for that. Good for him. Carol. I watched Carol for the first time. Carol. Half the past year is just like, golly, what if someone came up to me and whispered, take me to bed, and then you went to bed. That's so fucking sick. The films of Harry Smith, the films of John Whitney, early pseudo-computer animated things. If you want to like lure me out into the hallway like we lure our cat with hair ties, that's how you can do it. Just like weird early computer animation from when computers weren't terribly powerful. Cool. Great. Cool. Class Action Park. I remember that night very well. I remember I was shopping for knives a lot. What else is new? There are some bum out parts in that movie that I feel it sort of cleaves the movie in half, and you gotta kind of recover from that, and I don't know if that was necessarily appropriate. I understand that people died, maybe in manhandling the movie off to the side of the road as if you have a flat tire. You're not handling their situation quite as delicately either. Chris Gethard is fucking amazing in that. I would watch just an hour and a half of his outtakes or interview or whatever. The Fury by Brian De Palma. Switch your brain off, watch The Fury. The ending is pretty great, and yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there. Sliver with Sharon Stone was listed as a cyberpunk movie on Letterboxd. Maybe it's not cyberpunk, but I was way into it. If you don't watch I Think You Should Leave, I'm almost jealous of you, because that means you get to watch I Think You Should Leave for the first time. That's pivoting into TV stuff. Watch I Think You Should Leave. Do not be surprised if this Halloween you see a lot of Carl Havocks out there on the street. Podcasts. I felt like I detached myself from music, and it dawns on me now that I've made all these lists, and none of them are music. I really walked away from music. It was a tool to make myself be understood, and I don't need to be understood anymore. I'm surrounded by people who show me kindness regardless of whether or not my brain is scrambled. So that's, I don't know, I guess that's getting old, but the moral of the story is your 30s are so much better than your 20s, and nobody bothers to tell you that. Podcasts, as I was saying, They Create Worlds is pretty amazing. Pretty dense, but pretty amazing. You're going to learn stuff that you didn't know you needed to know. Insert credit I've recently started listening to. It is unbelievably addictive. The episodes where Liz Ryerson shows up are usually pretty great. Frank Cifaldi is always pretty great, and he is also the co-host of the Video Game History Hour. What was the thing I talked about earlier? What am I doing? Anyway, Video Game History Hour, #1, great. Game Crimes. Locally made, to some degree, and it's only like 6 episodes in, which means you can like marathon those and be like, haha, I'm on the crest of the wave. Episode 4, the Danny Buttonberry episode, is completely necessary. And lastly, but not leastly, Fama Conversations by Jeremy Parrish, which is only available on his Patreon. I appear in episode 6, which is about the SG-1000, and us trying to cover the 1983 lineup, but we don't do all of it. But it's very easy to digress on some of the stuff. It's very tough to explain, why does champion tennis look like that? Why does champion golf almost work? So, what it comes down to is, I have been waffling on the YouTube channel for a little while. The truth is, for the past year and a half and change, I have been putting together, museum's not the word, library's not the word, because people can't just walk in off the street and look at it, but an archive or a repository of things that trans designers and programmers have made video game wise over the course of the last 40 years. I kind of draw a line at 2010, because once you get to Steam, and I say itch.io, I think I'm the only person that pronounces it itch.io, but once you get to that stuff, you know, if I were covering all of that, that could be like 50 games a day, and I'm still looking for stuff in boxes from before when I was born. But I am working on preserving a lot of physical stuff, a lot of weird ephemera. I've got flyers from when Jamie Fenton's 280 Zap was called Midnight Racer, and then they sent out a second version of the flyer where they stamped it with red ink and it says new name 280 Zap. Like, I'm finding some weird stuff. I'm finding some cool ephemera. I'm hoping that when I go back to edit this, I can turn that into something coherent. That's why I've not been on YouTube so much. The fire is still there for me to make videos like this. It might be a little while longer until I get back to it. I have been playing a lot more cyberpunky stuff. If this 10th world country called America can get its shit together, I'd like to spend more time with friends and heckle some things that need to be heckled. Heckle with heart. Because, like, I'm not trying to pick on anyone's livelihood. This little experiment that I've been carrying on for the past year, it's not a failed experiment, it's not a successful experiment, but I'm still doing it, and that's more than I can say about my music career. Although Brillo's opening back up, and I wouldn't mind playing a show there, but whatever. Thanks for watching this. I love you dearly and sincerely and deeply. And depending on who you are, extraordinarily deeply. I will try to see you soon. I switched to NIMBLE Giant. Too hard, it was giving me headaches. This makes me feel normal. Corona Light is like candy. Drink that more often. I need to switch to that. You can't get it in fucking pounders, so that's why I don't have it on me. Whatever. Peace. This is Raya, our daughter, beloved former street cat. Still kind of stunted to just above kitten size. And I have so much fucking love in my heart, and it's nice that in addition to Lana, I have a small kitty who's a little wonky. I think I kind of get why people have kids. I mean, but